Okay, so you're deep in your game night, right? Or maybe you just scored that awesome back issue,
Yeah.
the one you've been hunting forever. Or maybe you're finally opening that new board game everyone's buzzing about.
Yeah, that feeling.
Totally. You want all the juicy details without, like, drowning in a sea of rules, right?
Especially for those tabletop RPGs.
Okay.
The ones that promise those crazy action-packed stories.
Right. You want to know if it lives up to the hype.
Absolutely.
So that's exactly what we're doing today. We're driving deep into Savage Worlds Adventure Edition.
SWADE.
SWADE. A blade, but with an S. Gotta nail that pronunciation.
Yeah.
We're gonna break down what makes this system sing, why people love it.
Think of it as your express lane to understanding why SWADE has such a devoted fan base. We're going to cut through the rulebook jungle, get right to the heart of the fun.
Exactly. And how it nails that thrilling, cinematic, that feeling you get from your favorite comics and games.
Oh, sure.
So Savage Worlds has been kicking around for a while, since 2003, actually. But the current version, the Adventure Edition, that really exploded in 2018. And the community, man, they went crazy for it on Kickstarter. That speaks volumes, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a hunger for what this system offers.
Absolutely. And their motto sums it up perfectly.
Okay.
Fast, furious, fun.
That says it all.
Right to the point. We're talking about a game that throws you into the action, no long rules debates.
Yeah.
Like, picture Indiana Jones, right?
Classic.
Barely escaping that giant boulder.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Or those over-the-top fights in 80s comics,
Totally.
SWADE is built for that energy.
And it's so versatile. You're not locked into one genre. It's not a one-trick pony.
Right.
You can run anything from those classic space operas like Flash Gordon with all the ray guns and daring escapes to gritty modern horror like The Thing, Even dive into those dark fantasy worlds that Conan the Barbarian would feel at home in.
Okay, so it can handle anything.
It's a chameleon. It adapts to whatever exciting world you want to explore.
I like that. Okay, so let's crack this thing open. How does it actually work? What makes it so fast and so furious?
Well, at its core, you have these things called traits.
Traits, okay.
These are your core abilities, how agile your character is, how smart, how much willpower they have, their strength, how tough they are.
Okay, so like the basics.
Exactly. And these traits are tied to different dice.
Dice, gotta have dice.
You got it, from a D4 all the way up to a D12, sometimes even higher.
Okay, so bigger dice, better traits.
Got it. Now, when you want to do something in the game, you roll that trait die, right, and you're trying to get a 4 or higher.
Simple enough.
Pretty straightforward. But here's where SWADE throws in a curveball, and it's called the wild die.
Ooh, wild die sounds exciting.
Every player character, and those big bad enemies too, they roll an extra D6 along with their regular trait die. Then they take the best result.
So you always have a chance.
Always a chance. And that simple mechanic, it adds a layer of unpredictability and a real heroic feel. Think about those 80s action movies.
I love those.
Where the hero's facing impossible odds but somehow pulls off a crazy stunt.
Yeah.
The wild die lets players create those edge-of-your-seat moments in their games. It's not just about raw skill. There's always a chance for a burst of crazy luck.
That's awesome. So it's like anyone can be the hero.
Exactly. And it keeps things exciting. You never know what's going to happen next.
So we've got the traits, the wild die. What else makes this system pop?
Well, there's this thing called acing. Some people call them exploding dice. It's when the dice get really wild.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So if you roll the maximum number on any of your dice, your trait die or that wild die, you get to roll it again and add that new roll to your total.
So it can keep going.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It can happen multiple times. Imagine like your character's trying to leap across a rooftop,
Yeah.
Channeling their inner Jackie Chan from those awesome 80s movies.
I can picture it.
They ace their agility roll, then they ace it again. Suddenly they're not just making the jump, they're sticking the landing like a superhero, with style.
So cool. So acing is what pumps up the action.
Exactly. It's the engine behind those "did that just happen" moments that SWAT is known for, those unbelievable over-the-top successes.
I love it. Okay, so you mentioned getting a 4 or higher on the dice. What happens if you, smash that target number?
Right, so for every 4 points you go over the target number, that's called a raise.
Oh, raise, okay.
And raises unlock extra benefits. Like, imagine hitting multiple enemies with one shot.
Oh, like Rambo.
Exactly. Or maybe you're deciphering an ancient clue, and a raise gives you extra information. It adds a tactical layer to the game.
So raises are good. What about the opposite? What if you completely flub the roll?
Ah, yeah. If you roll a 1 on both your trait die and your wild die, that's a critical failure.
Uh-oh, double ones.
Never a good sign. Usually that means something hilarious or just plain unfortunate is about to go down. It's part of what keeps the game light and fun.
I can see that leading to some great stories. So you've got your dice rolls, you've got your successes and failures. How do you actually get the action started? Especially when things get, a little heated.
Well, initiative in SWADE, it's handled with a regular deck of playing cards.
Okay, cards. Interesting.
Each player character and any important NPCs, they get dealt a card at the beginning of each round.
Okay, so it's random.
Totally random. You act in order, from ace, which is high, down to the 2, which is low.
So no fixed turn order makes sense for a fast-paced system.
But here's the kicker, the Joker.
The Joker, what does that do?
Drawing a Joker, that's a game changer. You get to act whenever you want in that round. You jump the line, basically, and you get a bonus.
What kind of bonus?
A +2 bonus to all your trait rolls and damage rolls. It's a huge swing in your favor.
Wow. So the Joker really shakes things up.
It introduces a fantastic element of chaos and opportunity. It's like drawing a powerful event card in a board game. Suddenly the tides turn. Keeps everyone on edge.
You never know when that Joker might pop up.
Love it. Okay, so we've got these core mechanics, wild die, exploding dice, raises, this card-based initiative. How do we actually make the characters who are going to be pulling off all this crazy stuff?
Well, character creation in SWADE, it's designed to be super flexible. You're not locked into specific classes like some other RPGs.
Okay, that's cool. So you've got options.
Tons of options. You start by picking your species, human, alien, robot, whatever fits the setting. Then you get a pool of points, usually around 30, to spread across those core attributes we talked about and a bunch of different skills.
So skills are how you use those attributes.
Exactly. So like your agility attribute might be high, but your shooting skill might be low, meaning you're nimble, but not a great shot. Or vice versa. It's really up to you to customize your character.
So you can really fine-tune your hero's abilities.
Absolutely, and that's just the beginning. You also choose edges, which are special talents, like having a knack for tinkering with gadgets.
Like Doc Brown from Back to the Future. Exactly. Or maybe they have super senses like Daredevil. You can also pick hindrances, which are disadvantages.
Disadvantages, huh?
They give you more points to spend on other stuff, but also make your character more interesting. Maybe your grizzled detective has a fear of heights, like a classic noir trope.
Right, so it's like trading power for personality.
Exactly. Hindrances encourage you to think about flaws, makes your character more well-rounded, relatable. It's not just about maxing out stats, it's about crafting a story.
I love that. So you're not just a stat sheet, you're a person.
Exactly. And as you play, you earn advances. You can use these to boost traits, learn new edges, or even try to overcome those hindrances.
You're constantly growing and changing.
Always evolving. And as you gain advances, your rank goes up. You start as a novice, then move to seasoned, veteran, heroic, and finally, legendary.
Sounds epic.
Each rank unlocks more powerful edges and abilities.
But I bet it's not just about getting super powerful.
You're right. The power curve in SWADE is more horizontal than vertical, meaning instead of becoming exponentially more powerful, you become more versatile.
So a legendary character isn't automatically a god.
Right. They might have more options, be better at more things, but a clever novice can still shine. It encourages teamwork and creative problem solving rather than relying on one powerhouse.
I like that balance. Okay, so we've got these unique characters. Initiative cards are dealt. The tension is building. What's combat like in SWADE?
When things get down and dirty.
Yeah, when the fists start flying or the lightsabers clash.
It's fast-paced, and, it can be pretty dangerous. We mentioned initiative, right, with the cards.
Yeah.
On your turn, you usually get one move and one main action, plus any quick free actions, like shouting a warning or dropping a weapon.
Okay, so you're not bogged down in complex actions.
Exactly. Now, when you want to attack, you make a trait roll. Usually fighting for melee, shooting for ranged attacks. For melee, you try to beat their parry score.
Parry, so that's their ability to dodge or block.
Exactly. For ranged attacks, you usually need a 4 or higher, but that can change depending on distance, cover, stuff like that. If you hit, then you roll for damage.
And that's where those exploding dice come back in.
You got it. Compare your damage to their toughness. That's how much they can take.
So tougher characters are harder to hurt.
Makes sense, right. If your damage matches or beats their toughness, they become shaken.
Shaken, so they're not out of the fight.
They're limited. They can only do a free action or try to recover with a spirit roll, or they can spend a Benny.
We'll get to Benny.
Yeah, we'll get there. Now, if you get a raise on your damage roll, meaning it's 4 or more higher than their toughness, you inflict a wound.
A wound. That sounds serious.
For most basic enemies, called extras in SWADE, 1 wound takes them out.
Okay, so 1 shot, 1 kill.
Sometimes. Player characters and other big players, they're called wildcards, they can take 3 wounds before they're down.
So a fight can flip on a dime.
It can get chaotic real quick, and that's part of the thrill. Even a weak enemy can get lucky with the dice, just like in those 80s movies.
Yeah, those moments where you think the hero is done for, but then...
They pull through. And wildcards, when they take wounds, they get penalties. They move slower, their traits suffer, they're less effective, but they can try to soak the damage.
Soak? Like a sponge?
Kind of. It's a vigor roll to reduce a wound's severity.
Okay, so there's some counterplay.
And then there are bennies. You mentioned them earlier.
Yeah, what are those exactly?
Think of them like luck points or inspiration tokens. Players earn them for good role-playing, completing goals, even just showing up sometimes.
So it pays to be engaged.
Definitely. You spend bennies to re-roll anything, a bad trait roll, damage roll, you name it. You can use them to recover from shaken automatically, or even soak an extra wound.
So they give you some control over your fate.
Exactly. They're that clutch moment in a video game where you use a special item, or that burst of adrenaline that lets you push past your limits.
I love that. It gives players that extra edge. Okay, so SWAD prioritizes speed, action, adaptability. What are its biggest strengths? And where might it not be the best fit?
Well, that speed and flexibility, those are huge strengths. You can use the core rules for any genre. You want to run a pirate adventure, no problem. A cyberpunk thriller, go for it.
So many possibilities.
And that cinematic gameplay with the wild die and the exploding dice, it leads to those unforgettable moments, the ones you talk about after the game.
The kind of stories that stick with you?
Exactly. And compared to some other RPGs, the rules are pretty streamlined. Easier to learn, so new players don't feel overwhelmed.
That's important, especially for getting new folks into the hobby.
And the community is fantastic, really supportive and welcoming.
Okay, so a friendly community, tons of flexibility, easy to learn, sounds great. Are there any downsides?
Well, some players find the combat a little swingy.
Swingy?
Because of the exploding dice and that random card initiative, fights can be unpredictable.
So you can't always plan for everything.
Right. A tough fight on paper can end quickly with a few good rolls, or an easy fight can go sideways. It's like a big fight scene in an 80s action movie.
Anything can happen.
Exactly. Some players love that, the thrill of the unknown. Others want more control over their strategy.
Right, they want to feel like their choices matter.
And sometimes one lucky roll can change everything. But overall, the consensus is that SWAD is a fantastic toolkit RPG. You get solid core rules, and then there are tons of setting and genre books.
So you can fine-tune it.
You can tailor the game to get that exact feel you want.
It's like having a box of Legos. You've got the basic bricks, and you add all those specialized pieces to build whatever you can imagine.
That's a perfect analogy.
Now, for some of our listeners, D&D 5th edition is their jam. How does SWAD stack up?
Great question. Big difference is character progression. SWAD has no classes, remember? It's horizontal growth, lots of skills. D&D is all about classes and vertical progression. You get more powerful as you level up.
So, in D&D, a high-level character is just plain stronger.
Right. Combat in SWAD is quicker, potentially more deadly. D&D fights can be longer, more drawn out.
Okay, so pace is different.
And many GMs find SWAD needs less prep time. D&D can get pretty detailed.
Less time prepping, more time playing.
Exactly.
Okay, so bottom line, what makes SWAD truly stand out? What's its unique flavor?
It all goes back to fast, furious, fun. It's genre agnostic, meaning you can run any kind of game.
We've said it before, but it's worth repeating.
It's the core of what makes SWAD so great. And those wild die and bennies, they give players power, make them feel like they can shape the story.
Like their choices matter.
Exactly. The combat is dynamic, exciting, and yes, unpredictable. And character creation, with edges and hindrances, it lets you get really creative.
Make those characters your own.
And don't forget all the setting and genre books. You can truly customize the experience.
So what's the overall tone of a SWAD game? What kind of stories are we telling?
Cinematic. Think heroic characters, over-the-top situations, just like in movies and comics.
Like 80s action flicks.
Exactly. It's perfect for pulp adventures like The Rocketeer, gritty noir like Blade Runner, superhero epics like the X-Men, hard sci-fi like Aliens.
Some of which, right.
Anything that's got that dramatic action, those larger-than-life characters, the feel of 80s pop culture.
Whether it's Indiana Jones, Watchmen, Star Wars, or Ghostbusters, SWADE can handle it.
It really can.
Okay, time to wrap it up. Big takeaways for our listeners who are curious about Savage Worlds.
SWADE offers a fast, flexible, cinematic gaming experience. It's all about dynamic, exciting stories like jumping right into your favorite 80s comics or movies.
And don't forget that unpredictable combat.
It's key to the system, that swingy feeling, the sense that anything can happen.
So if you want a system that prioritizes speed, versatility, and thrilling, unexpected moments over, say, complex tactics or a slow power climb, then SWADE might be your next RPG obsession.
I think it's a great system for anyone looking for a fresh take on tabletop role-playing.
And on that note, here's something to think about. How might that unpredictability actually enhance or detract from your ideal role-playing experience? Think about those carefully planned strategies you might use in other games.
Yeah, how would they work in a system like SWADE where a single roll can turn the tide?
It's a question worth pondering. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Savage Worlds.
It's been a blast.
Until next time.
See you